Listen, so their policy is you can't record in here.
You're NYPD now? You're NYPD now?
Always been. Listen,
no.
You have to leave because you're not allowed to record in here.
You want to read their policies?
Their policies that you cannot record in here.
The first line.
Their staff is asking us to remove you, and I don't remember you. I
remember you.
Oh, that's nice. I hope you like me. Time to go. All right?
Why would I need to leave? I have a right to be here, and I'm conducting business.
No, you're not conducting business. And the thing is that you have to go through.
Read the policy right there. I'm handing it to you.
He told me.
Who is he?
The security guard, the head security guard said that you need to leave, and they have a right to kick you out.
Photography and photocopying policy, right? I'm going to read it to you because if you violate my rights, you can't say that.
Sir,
you didn't know.
That's our job.
It's no negotiation. It's no.
So you could just ask anybody to leave a public building just because.
Yes.
They want you to.
They said they've gotten complaints from every staff member on every single floor that you're recording them and you're being a nuisance, and you're not allowed to do that inside the library.
How am I being a nuisance?
You have to leave.
How am I being a nuisance?
You are recording them and you're not allowed to do that inside.
So photography is a nuisance?
Sir?
Can I speak to your supervisor, please?
They can't record in here, right? You willing to? Nope. All right.
Read this. Handheld cameras are permitted.
Listen.
First line. Handheld cameras are permitted. This is their rules.
You have to.
Why?
Why? Because you are not allowed.
What crime am I committing?
You're not part of any media. You do not have prior permission to record in here. You now have to leave.
I do have permission.
Step out civilly.
I want to speak to your supervisor.
No problem. He's going to tell you the same thing.
No, he's not.
Tell you.
He's going to honor his oath to the Constitution.
Let's make it back.
I don't want to deal with you because I already got you on camera.
Go ahead.
Cursing me out, so I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with you. I'd rather deal with somebody that I never had contact with. Because right now it seems like
what starts as a routine visit to a New York public library quickly spirals into a disturbing display of authority overriding common sense. The auditor walks in peacefully, camera in hand, documenting a taxpayer-funded building like countless journalists and citizens have done before him. But within seconds, security and NYPD officers swarm him with demands to stop recording and leave immediately. Their justification? Staff members feel uncomfortable. No crime. No disruption. Just discomfort. The auditor calmly points to the library's own posted policy clearly stating that handheld cameras are permitted, but the officers don't care. Facts are ignored, policies are twisted, and constitutional rights are treated like inconveniences. The tension rises as the officer repeatedly orders him out without explaining what law has been broken. What unfolds here is more than a disagreement over filming. It's a raw example of power being exercised without understanding the limits of that power.
You didn't investigate at all. You didn't do no investigation. You just went off of his word, right?
I want you to respond here.
Why are you asking me to leave a public place I have a right to be?
They want you to leave, so you gotta leave.
Okay, what if they wanted me to smack myself? I gotta smack myself?
No, that's different.
Right. I have a right to be here just like everybody else. I'm not being disorderly. I'm walking around peacefully recording. The public workers.
Listen, my lieutenant's on
Can I record you? Can I record you? So why can't I record the city workers?
They're not city workers.
They work. New York is funded.
They're security guards.
The public library is funded by tax dollars.
You record me all you want.
I can record government workers in the course of their duty. Read case law. You need to read case law because you enforce the law.
My job right now is to get you out of this building.
Why? What crime did I commit?
They don't want you in here.
Why would they ask me to leave?
You're being disorderly. You're being a nuisance, and now you have other people watching.
How am I being a nuisance? How?
You were
by simply recording.
They asked you to stop recording.
They never asked me to leave. They never asked me to leave.
Because I can ask him and he can say the opposite.
I have on camera. Have you guys ever asked me to leave since I've been here? Have you asked me to leave? Have you asked me to leave since I've been here? Nope. First thing they said when I came in the building was you can record.
Listen, you can hang out here, wait.
I'm going to wait for your supervisor.
My lieutenant's going to be here.
Why not honor your oath? Why not protect my rights?
I'm honoring my oath.
I'm in a public building.
These nice men called me here, and they called us to escort you out of this building, and that's as far as I'm concerned with
Why would you escort me out the building?
We don't need to continue any more conversation.
You escort me out if I'm being disorderly, if I'm somewhere I'm not supposed to be, if I'm impeding business.
They said you were not allowed to record.
Can I finish my sentence?
Can
I finish my sentence?
As the confrontation escalates, the cracks in the officer's reasoning become impossible to ignore. The auditor repeatedly asks one simple question: what crime did I commit? But instead of answers, he gets robotic responses about policies and complaints from staff. The officers call him a nuisance simply because he's recording, despite admitting he hasn't threatened anyone, blocked services, or caused any disturbance. Every attempt he makes to explain his rights is brushed aside with cold indifference. Even after reading the library's own policy aloud, handheld cameras are permitted, the officers double down harder than before. It becomes painfully obvious they never investigated the situation for themselves. They simply accepted security's word as law. The auditor remains calm, exposing contradiction after contradiction while the officers stumble through weak justifications. What's truly alarming is not just the ignorance on display, but the confidence with which these officers attempt to enforce something they clearly don't understand.
Right, you work for me. You work for me.
I also work for them.
You work for me.
So you understand that, right?
And they're not exercising their rights. I am.
Yeah. No,
Peacefully.
They are peacefully asking us to escort you out.
For what crime?
You're not allowed to record in here.
He just said I was. And it says right here on their policies.
Because read
their policies.
He actually just said you weren't allowed to record in here.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Listen, he's the head security guard as far as I'm concerned.
Read the policy.
And we were asked to escort you out.
Read their policy.
I don't need to read their policy.
So I'm not violating their policy, so why would you ask me to leave?
I abide by what the security
And I'm not breaking the law.
Listen, this is a civil matter, and
I don't want to talk to you no more because this is retaliation. You're trying to retaliate against me because I recorded you before. So
I don't remember you ever recording.
I remember you. I remember you. You work at Midtown South, right?
It's on my press bar.
Yeah, I didn't even look at that. I already know.
It's right here.
If I was somewhere I'm not supposed to be, if I was cursing people out, if I was being disorderly,
Listen, I'm just here to escort
every
you
time
out
I
of the
talk, you cut me off.
Listen, like you said, you
Me
don't wanna
simply
speak, then don't
recording,
speak.
me recording is not a disturbance.
You're being a disturbance to these people. They
How?
asked you to leave. I don't know.
Because they don't like what I'm doing? What if they didn't like my shirt? What if they didn't like my religion? They're going to escort me out of a public building? Because this is a right. It's called freedom of religion. So if I was praying here,
the staff has asked you to leave. I don't know what more you want me to say.
If I was praying in this library and they didn't like that I was my religion, they wanted me out because I was praying. You want to enforce their feelings, or do I have freedom of religion?
Are you praying right now?
I wanted to.
So
I came to this library for multiple reasons. You going to ask me to leave while I'm praying because they don't like my religion?
What is going on right here? We didn't find you praying.
I'm going to pray before I leave.
The encounter takes an even darker turn when the auditor begins exposing how dangerous blind policy enforcement can become. He asks powerful questions the officers clearly aren't prepared for. What if they didn't like my religion? Would you remove me for praying? Suddenly, the officers fall silent, unable to defend their logic without exposing how flawed it really is. The auditor explains that rights do not disappear simply because someone feels uncomfortable. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of the press are not privileges handed out based on emotions. Yet these officers continue treating constitutional protections like optional guidelines. The frustration builds as the auditor tries repeatedly to reason with them while they cling desperately to vague claims of disorderly conduct. Every calm statement from the citizen is met with escalating hostility from authority. Instead of protecting rights, the officers appear obsessed with controlling behavior they personally dislike. It's a chilling reminder of how quickly public servants can forget who they truly work for.
To conduct business.
The only way
I came here to utilize the library for its purposes.
The only way I'm leaving here right now is if my lieutenant tells me you can stay.
Why wouldn't I be able to stay? I'm not being disorderly. All I'm doing is walking around quietly recording the New York City public workers, which I have a right to do. I can record the government while you're at work.
You'll see what my lieutenant says, okay? How about that? Deal? And then
Sure, that's why I asked for him.
And if you're good to stay, then I'll leave.
The Constitution and the law says I'm okay. What you swore an oath to do.
No.
What does the Constitution have to do with? Does the Constitution have to do with your job?
Oh.
Does the Constitution have to do with your job?
This has nothing to do with the Constitution.
It does for me. It does for me.
Because they said you're being disorderly, and they're not comfortable with you recording inside here, and they said that you're not allowed to record inside here. We don't have
Read their
to
policies. Read it. Read the first line. Read the first bulletin.
They just gave this to me. That last bullet point says no photographs of the staff, other researchers, or certain reading rooms may be taken.
That's what
Okay, they work for the government. There's case law that I can record them.
It doesn't matter. Their policy, that's what we're here to explain to you. They said that the staff members don't want you recording.
Okay, I'm still not committing a crime. I have a right to be in a public building.
And they have the right to escort you out.
Why would they do that if I'm conducting business?
But you're not anymore. They're asking you to stop.
I am, though, because I still have to file complaints.
If you want to say
I still have to file complaints.
Stop, though.
I still have to file complaints, and I still have to do a FOIA request. And I still want to pray before I leave.
How do you file a complaint?
On the first floor.
First.
The circulation desk, they'll hand them a piece of paper and they'll
Do you want to go to the first floor?
I was going there before you guys came.
Well, listen, I have no problem you filing a complaint.
If I was committing a crime, then you have a right.
By now, the conversation has transformed into a full-blown battle between constitutional law and institutional ego. The auditor continues dismantling every argument thrown at him, explaining that government employees performing their duties in public can legally be recorded. He reminds the officers that their oath was sworn to the Constitution, not to library staff feelings or internal policies. Yet one officer shockingly admits, this has nothing to do with the Constitution. That single sentence says everything. The camera captures a system where policy is being elevated above fundamental rights, and where officers seem more interested in compliance than legality. Even after being shown written proof that filming is allowed, they continue insisting he must leave. Their inability to answer basic legal questions exposes a dangerous level of ignorance. The auditor stays composed while the officers grow increasingly defensive, proving that knowledge is often the biggest threat to unchecked authority. This isn't policing anymore, it's intimidation disguised as professionalism.
To escort me out. This is a public building.
Yes.
You cannot put policy over law. You cannot put policy over law. What if the policy say no black people? You want to enforce that? You can't put policy over law.
That's not going to happen.
The government can't make policies that violate the law or the Constitution. Yeah, I'm going there. You put policy over law? Since when? Fuck out of here. I recorded libraries in every 5 boroughs, all 5 boroughs. And it's not a problem because it's not against the law. You swore to protect my rights. You're supposed to come here and enforce the law, not their policy.
This floor? One more floor? Okay.
Am I being detained?
You're not in cuffs. No, you're not.
So I'm free. So I'm free.
No, you
Am I being detained?
You have to leave.
Am I detained for a crime?
Being detained means you're being stopped and you're under investigation.
Am I being detained for a crime?
I just explained to you, not being detained.
All right, then, so that means I'm free, right?
I feel like she's explaining things.
Am I detained for a crime?
Come on.
Am I detained for a crime?
We're going to go downstairs and you can make a complaint.
You can go wherever you want. I'm free. I'm not detained.
We are going downstairs and you can either leave or you can go make a complaint. They don't want you in here. They have a right to not have you in here. If you want to take that up civilly, go right ahead and you can make a complaint and start that.
As backup supervisors are called in, hope briefly emerges that someone with actual understanding might finally step in and correct the situation. Instead, the confusion only deepens. The officers continue repeating the same tired phrases. They don't want you here. You're being disorderly. You have to leave. But none of them can identify an actual crime. The auditor presses harder, exposing the absurdity of their logic by asking whether they would enforce discriminatory policies if ordered to do so. Silence follows. The officers avoid every direct legal question while continuing to threaten removal from a public building. One officer even struggles to explain whether the auditor is detained, creating an embarrassing contradiction on camera. The auditor calmly forces them to admit he is free to go, proving there is no lawful basis for detention. Every minute of footage becomes more humiliating for the officers involved, revealing how fragile authority becomes when challenged by someone who actually understands the law.
However, their policy says right here, no.
I don't care about their policy, bro. I don't care about their policy, bro.
May be taken.
I'm not breaking the law.
What you're doing in here?
I'm not breaking the law.
Escort you out because you
No, they don't. No, they don't.
You're violating the
No, they don't.
members.
I have a constitutional right to record in public. It's called the First Amendment. It's called the First Amendment.
You know
what the Constitution is? The highest law of the land. You can't put a fucking library's policy over the Constitution. Are you crazy? You swore over to the Constitution. You didn't swear over to the library's policy. And if they deny me public services, I'm gonna sue them. If you violate my rights, I'm gonna sue you. You ain't swear over to the library's policy. You forgot what your oath is to? The Constitution. Smug ass. Took the oath for what? Where's your lieutenant at so I can speak to him?
He's on his way. He's on another job.
He probably has more pressing matters than somebody exercising their rights in a public building. Listen, what? Are you gonna honor your oath?
It is what it is. I'm
So what
honoring
is
my
it?
oath. They
No,
asked
it's
me to
not.
escort you out.
Let me ask you a
Here,
question.
You violated their policy.
Let me
Yes
ask you
or
a
no?
question. Can you put that
Yes
policy
or
over the
no?
law?
Did you not violate their policy that's right here? Circled
What's higher,
in front for
that
you?
policy or their law?
This is their right. This is their building. This is their
This is our
establishment.
building. It's a people's
It's
building.
their establishment,
It's a
and they
people's
have a right
building.
to escort
It's
you
a
out.
public
Now,
building.
I'm here to do this civilly.
I pay
and I don't wanna
taxes to
force
be in
you
this
out of here,
building.
okay? My lieutenant's pulling up. Is that him right there?
The pressure reaches its boiling point as the officers cling desperately to the library's photography policy like its criminal code. The auditor fires back with relentless precision, reminding them over and over that policy cannot override constitutional law. He warns them that violating civil rights under color of authority carries consequences, but the officers seem more irritated by being questioned than concerned about the legality of their actions. Their body language says it all: frustration, arrogance, and growing panic as their arguments collapse in real time. The auditor's knowledge dismantles every excuse they attempt to use. You swore an oath to the Constitution, not to library policy, he says, cutting straight through the nonsense. Meanwhile, the lieutenant arrives only to witness a department struggling to justify behavior that cannot legally be defended. The officers continue talking in circles, refusing to acknowledge the obvious truth standing directly in front of them. Peaceful photography in public is not a crime.
Well, he could come find me.
That's not him. That's traffic with the lights on.
You put policy over law?
I'm putting them right now.
Of course you do.
This is my job.
Of course you do.
This is
Of
what I'm
course
here for.
your job is to
Do you
enforce the
wanna
law.
go? Do you want to make a complaint?
Your job is to enforce the law. Is there a law being broken right
Do you
now?
want to come?
What law am I breaking?
Do you want to make a complaint?
Yeah,
Walk away from my
avoid that
lieutenant?
question.
Come on.
Avoid that question. What law am I
I've
breaking?
already answered you multiple times.
What
You're
law am I
being
breaking?
disorderly. You're not
How?
under arrest.
How
You
am
are not
how am I
under
being
arrest.
disorderly, ma'am?
Because you're violating
recording?
their policy.
Photography
right here,
isn't a crime
right here.
in
Look,
public.
No photographs of the staff, other
Photography
researchers,
isn't
or
a
certain
crime
reading
in
rooms may
public,
be taken.
and you can't
wanna
turn
argue
photography
every
into-
Why'd you
single
show us that piece
You
of
can't
paper?
turn
Now that
photography
now that
into
we
a
pointed
crime.
that out, now it doesn't
You
matter.
can't
Now
to
the
show
piece
you
of paper
how
means nothing.
because I record in libraries all over the city.
You're contradicting
because I have the right
yourself.
to.
You're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm not. I'm following the law.
Yes, you are.
The law that you swore to protect. You enforce the law. You
That's
enforce
what we're
policies.
doing.
So
That's
what
we're
law am I
doing. We're doing
breaking?
our job.
What law am I
being
breaking?
disorderly.
How? By
Oh, the
recording?
lieutenant is right here.
Okay. Is he going to help me file my complaint?
He keeps saying he's violating his rights, that we're violating his rights because he's clearly breaking their policy that says no photographs of the staff, other researchers, or certain reading rooms may be taken. And he's saying we're violating his constitutional right that he's allowed to record in here and their policy doesn't matter. And he requested you because
How you
we're
doing?
violating his rights.
All right.
Well, this is what I said. I said you can't put their library policy over the law. I'm not breaking the law, which means I have a right to be here. It's a public building.
Okay.
My taxes fund this building. Do I not have a right to be here?
Okay.